All right, and the last piece here, scenario 3, what we've done is where the future residential is, now we've looked at adding single family. And I will say that in addition to connecting the streets in the neighborhood, what we tried to look at is the mix of housing types that were there now. And so when you look at the final board for this, you'll see that the pictures down at the bottom show single family / townhouses. That's because there's actually a variety of different, there's single, there's two, there's threes. Exactly. So what we wanted to do is look at a building form that could either work for single family or work for townhouses. So the boxes on the screen don't necessarily tell you what it looks like when you're physically there. So the idea is now the residential is turned to single family. You still have commercial flex and mixed use. And just to talk a little bit about what's going on in Court Street. So now you see the single family up there. You can see that people now have a little bit of land with their units, so it's denoting that single family form. Back down on Court Street, when we've been talking about mixed use, there's a couple of different combinations that could happen. One is retail and office and residential, retail and residential. But the key on this was turning the corner from the downtown, just that sort of first band along Court Street there, creating an active street environment, which is something that planners and urban designers tend to talk about ad nauseum, but it is important. And it's important for a couple of reasons. One is making the transition from the downtown and then, then into this area. Two, because we are hoping to encourage people walking from their homes or their jobs to the public transit. It gives them a little bit of space to pick up a newspaper or coffee or something to eat along the way. And just make the street a little bit livelier. We've also included that sort of green and orange in front of the C-shaped building as a little bit of a public plaza, because activation can be about a retail use, but it also can be about having a little bit of a civic use, a little bit of a green space that people can enjoy on their way. So as we talk about the mixed-use buildings, we're envisioning some sort of active retail, co-working, restaurant, cafe on the ground floor, and some sort of mix of uses above that.
Okay, so my final piece to talk about from a market pricing perspective is some assumptions on single-family detached homes. So again, we spoke with brokers and tried to find proxies for recent home sales in the area. This 295 to 320 range is definitely a conservative estimate, I would say. I know different areas of Brockton have definitely had different sale ranges in recent memory, but brokers and developers that we spoke to felt like this was a achievable number on the site where their financial statements would work out and this would still be an attractive proposition. So among all the scenarios, this is the most, call it the lowest hanging financial fruit, right? So because of those sale prices, those competitive sale prices for single family homes, this relative to the others could be financially feasible. Of course, you have the lowest rate of transit utilization. Again, as you spread more houses out and have fewer people living per acre, the fewer have walkable access to the transit. High on job creation, and this is among the scenarios we've looked at, potentially the most viable in the shortest term. Again, that may be 5 to 7, 5 to 8 years, something like that, but versus the larger multifamily projects, that would be the case. Okay.
So I wanted to talk just a little bit about next steps. First of all, the main next step is to have all of you get a chance to walk around, look in detail, ask questions. We'll do our best to answer them. There are the comment cards at the back of the table where you signed in. We ask you a couple of questions based on preferences, and we would really like to hear the answers. But there's also a space that if you feel that we've missed anything or that we need additional information, or that as we work on the draft report you would like answered, please put those in there, and we will read them and respond to them as best we can. In terms of the overall process, after this meeting, we start to put everything together in an actual written document. We start to make some of the changes to these illustrative plans and scenarios. We haven't yet decided whether there will be a single scenario or maybe still 2 or 3 to reemphasize the flexibility that's needed for a site like this. Once we have that draft, we'll be back to the master plan committee getting their feedback on it. And you wanted to, okay, fair enough. And then we do a final plan. And we're currently slated to finish around May, so.
So thank you for sitting through the presentation, and now we're going to open up the open house, and we'll be available for questions throughout this area. I want you to think of this as going to a restaurant, although we just have cookies. You know, the chef has sat down with the kitchen staff and, you know, the local farmers and suppliers, and we've come up with a menu, and we've presented the menu to you. You look at the menu, it's tempting, but you might not like Brussels sprouts. So substitutions are possible for an upcharge. No, not just kidding. So you might like, you know, part of this diagram, you know, this scenario has some great stuff on the east side of the river, but you like that scenario's west side. So let us know. We can mix it up as we go through this process. You've got scorecards. You can tell us what you like about each scenario, what you don't like about it. Again, you know, we're using the Trout Brook as not just a demarcation line, but also as a natural amenity, connecting the parks. We thought that that was important. We thought access to transit and creating jobs were also important. But we want to hear from you as we go through this.